Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian Renteria, and this is the monthly recap for the month of February. Again, we'll be talking about the theaters and streaming releases. There will be some slight spoilers. There will be one big spoiler, which I will obviously let you guys know about beforehand, but I will do my best to keep everything, of course, as spoiler-free as possible, even though, you know, it's my podcast, I can talk about spoilers, but I will do my best to keep it spoiler-free, because I'm a very spoiler-free kind of guy. Unless, you know, I didn't like the movie, and then I will, you know, spoil the hell out of it. But I don't think I have one of those movies. I mean, there was one movie, but, you know, we'll talk about that when we get to it. February wasn't entirely light like last year. Last year was pretty slim pickings last year. This year, there was some pretty big releases that came out, and there was some movies that I'm going to get into this month. So, also horror still staying in the realm, staying in the release schedule for a while. I think March will be just a little bit of horror light, as opposed to especially this month. This month there was a lot of horror movies that came out. Some of them I did not watch, unfortunately, but we'll get to that probably sometime in October because of spooky season. Obviously, I'll watch some of those that I missed. So before we get to the movies that came out that I did watch, I obviously did this last month. I'm going to keep doing it for the rest of these episodes. I'm going to talk about the big movies, or, you know, just movies in general that I wanted to watch that I didn't get to watch this month. We'll start off with Dracula. There was a new Dracula movie that came out at the beginning of the month. Didn't see that. Solo Milo. That was the new Kevin James kind of romantic comedy drama that came out, where he gets stood up and he goes on a trip by himself to Italy. The Mortuary Assistant, I did not get a chance to watch. It was playing in a limit. Some of these also very limited releases or just inconvenient showtimes that I couldn't get to. Mortuary Assistant was one of those, but I think as it does come out on Shudder this month, since it's already March. Goat, didn't get a chance to watch that. That's the new animated movie, produced by Stephen Curry. Didn't get a chance to watch that. Cold Storage is another one. Just inconvenient showtimes. That's a new movie with Joe Carey, Georgiana Campbell, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and Liam Neeson. This is not a test. This is a teenagers find themselves stuck in, I believe it's their high school during a zombie apocalypse. There's some pretty decent reviews for that one. I think it made the rounds at the film festivals and got, again, some pretty decent word of mouth. Pilion, that is the new gay romance movie with Alexander Skarsgård. That's supposed to be very good. Just, again, inconvenient showtimes around that. The Bluff, I was going to watch it literally before I started recording this, and I just couldn't find the time. So I do intend on watching that. That is the new movie on Prime Video with Priyanka Chopra and Carl Urban in there. It's supposed to be pretty decent action movie, so I'm looking forward to that. And then the big one that I didn't get to watch that you will know is Wuthering Heights. The English major in me, even though it doesn't sound like it sometimes, did think about going to watch it, and then I just kept hearing not so great things about it, and that kind of just swayed me away from that, even though I very much like Margot Robbie, and I've become a fan of Jacob Elordi because of Frankenstein. All the bad word of mouth, and then some of the clips that came out online, it just wasn't for me. So those are the movies I didn't get to watch in February. Let's talk about the ones I did get to watch in February. We're going to start off with Whistle. That is one of the many horror movies that came out this month. It was one of the first big movies of the month as well. This one is sort of a Halloween movie, which is surprisingly why it came out in February to me. But, you know, whatever. That's fine. But I also get why they probably didn't release it in October. It's not, you know, like it is a Halloween movie. It takes place around Halloween, but it's not like a definitive, like, oh, this is only happening because it's Halloween. That's not the reason. I do have a couple positive things to say about Whistle. There's one particular death in this movie that is done very, very well. And it is really, really freaking good. And probably and most likely my favorite thing about the entire movie. Two, there is potentially a good movie in here. And you will hear me say this about another movie later. There is potentially a good movie in Whistle. With more work, another pass to the script, and maybe some better writing, Whistle could have been better. And for those that don't know, what the movie's about. Whistle, it is about a new girl that comes into town, played by Daphne King. She is there because something traumatic happened in her past that led her to this new town where she is. And when she, she lives with her cousin, and when she gets to this new school, she finds a death whistle. And of course, if you know anything about death whistles, when you blow into them, you hear this horrific scream. There is a very tragic history of what a death whistle actually is, and once she blows into it, they pretty much she pretty much calls or she doesn't blow into it. Another character blows into it, but they pretty much just sign away their death. So this is very much kind of like a Final Destination-esque movie, where an evil spirit is after them, and they have to find a way to, obviously, try to escape it. So I did have one more positive thing, and when I was hearing that, and this is where the other positive thing comes into mind. The idea, the concept they developed for the movie is, it's not just like, a random brisk of air coming at you like the early Final Destination stuff is. It is, you're seeing your future self. You're basically seeing how you're going to die, or a version of how you're going to die is coming after you. I thought that's a pretty cool concept, because you don't really know how, you're seeing this, horrific thing, and you're kind of noticing it's kind of you, this very futuresque you, this older you maybe. And I think that concept is pretty cool, but it just, the execution of it and the execution of this whole movie, like I mentioned, just wasn't all that great. I would say I probably wanted a little bit more of a Mexican slant or Hispanic slant, since obviously, it is, they mentioned that it's like a Mayan death whistle or an Aztec death whistle. I think it was Mayan that they mentioned. I think it was a Mayan death whistle. But I would have loved to see that, a little bit more. And Daphne King herself is obviously, I think she's from Spain, not from Mexico, but would have seen that. But her character isn't played off as Spanish in any sort of way. So I don't know, I kind of wanted to maybe kind of see that just a little bit more, but it is what it is, I guess. And Daphne King, fine, being the lead is cool. Seeing her, I want to see her in more stuff because she is a very talented actress. And her character is okay. It's not all that great. Again, the characters in this movie aren't really written well. I think the only real exception here is Sophie Nielesis. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I apologize. She plays Ellie. But there's just, there's not really enough juice there, if you will, for the characters to really make them more impactful. Overall, I think it's just it's a big bag of just meh. Again, the potential for a good movie there, it just wasn't there for me. Strangers Chapter 3. Listen. You guys, if you've listened to this podcast enough, or if you're listening for a while, and I have said this, I always try to give movies a try. I haven't said this in a while, but I have said it on podcast. There's proof of me saying this. I try to go into every movie that I watch with zero expectation. Whether it's a movie, especially if it's a movie that I'm really hyped up for, I will leave every expectation I have at the door, because if I go in there and be like, oh, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, and it doesn't happen, then I know that is going to, affect my viewing of the movie. I know that's going to affect my overall opinion of the movie, because oh, this didn't happen, but there was no chance of that ever possibly happening in the movie. So I leave all that at the door. It's harder for sequels, because obviously you kind of know what to expect a little bit, but it's especially harder to leave any sort of expectation you have at the door for a third movie, especially if it's a third movie of a trilogy that you absolutely do not like. And that is where The Strangers comes into play. I did not like the first movie. I did not like the second movie. And I don't ever say this about any movie. And I mean this. I will call movies the worst thing I've ever seen. I will call movies absolute trash and garbage and all that. I have never said this, ever. And I'm saying it for the first time on this podcast. I've never said this about a movie. But The Strangers Chapter 3, and really the whole trilogy, fuck you. Fuck this movie. It is so bad. If you like this movie, or you even enjoy this movie or the series, you know what? More power to you. I will never judge anybody. And I've said this also on the podcast, and I will say it again. So, more recent. I would never judge anybody for liking a movie that I don't like. That's not who I am. That's not who I'll ever be. And I hope that can be, I mean, we can have a little healthy debate. That's always great, right? We can have a little, maybe take a little jabs at each other, fun jabs. But if you like these movies, if you enjoy these movies, I will think a certain way about you. I do not like, and I did not like, The Strangers Chapter 3. It is so god awful. I have never shaken my head in disappointment and let out a very heavy sigh as soon as the credits started to roll. I looked at my brother because I watch movies with my brother. We went to go watch it. We knew it wasn't going to be good. We went to go watch it anyway. And we looked at each other as soon as the credits rolled, and we just let out the heaviest sigh that we could possibly ever. We have never done that. And we just, that is the first time that I ever remember doing that with him. I gave the first movie credit, even though I didn't like it. And I just repeated that again, that it tried to do its own thing, right? I did not like the second movie because it was beyond messy. You can tell that they went back and reshot a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sure I pointed it out when we talked about it on the horror podcast. It felt incoherent. It just tries too hard to play up the mystery that feels forced, and then it tries to explain everything that didn't need to be explained. This movie tries to connect all of that with flashbacks now included, and new characters that really don't amount to anything other than just being there for a high body count. They meant absolutely nothing. I did it to myself, so I can't be entirely mad, but I can't. I hate this movie. I hate this trilogy. Again, fuck this movie. I've never said that, and I can't believe I'm saying that about a movie, even though I didn't like it. Yeah, all right, moving on. Moving on. I gotta move on because I will go on a tangent about strangers if I keep going. Let's move on to a movie that I enjoy a lot more than Strangers Chapter 3, and that's Crime 101. This thing is stacked with its cast, led by Chris Hemsworth as a thief who's trying to look for his way out. You got Mark Ruffalo in there playing a cop, tracking him down. You got Halle Berry as an insurance broker who Hemsworth targets to help steal from her bosses, and she's also, she kind of has her own thing about, where her career is. You got Nick Nolte in a very small role as Hemsworth's handler, I guess you can say. I think fence is the proper term in that regard. You got Barry Cogan in here as someone else that Nick Nolte hires to, make sure that Chris Hemsworth's doing the job, or, if he just wants to do it himself. He's pretty, in all for sake and circumstances, he is the villain of the movie, if you want to call it that. Monica Barbaro is in here in a very small role as well. Kind of playing the love interest to Hemsworth's character. Corey Hawkins is in here as Ruffalo's partner. You got Jennifer Jason Leigh in here in a cameo, if that's what you want to call it, playing Ruffalo's wife in here. There's a lot of moving parts in Crime 101, but this is Hemsworth, Barry's, and Ruffalo's show. Barry Cohen's show when he pops up, because he disappears for a little bit and then he comes back in, and he's a force of nature. He really is. It's not perfect. I think it's a tad bit too long for me. I think everything that plays out is really good. It's really enjoyable. It's much more of a drama than thriller, like the trailers would have you believe. There is some action, tense set pieces in there. It's not Heat. And I know anytime you set a movie in LA, or a crime movie in LA, especially that, you immediately want to compare it to Heat or, any other Michael Mann movie out there. Which I think is a little unfair to all those movies, but it's a little unfair to this one. But what can you do? So when you're watching it, if you haven't watched it yet, do expect a more toned down, slicker crime drama than a high octane action paced thriller. It's still enjoyable. It's really great. I think Chris Hemsworth is. It's funny. I heard people say he was miscast in the movie, and I heard people say that he was, not good in it. I do think he's playing a very much different character. Chris Hemsworth, very charming. I think that's, good to say. He's very charming, handsome, good looking man. And, but here he plays a very much, kind of soft spoken, he doesn't, look at anybody for too long. He's very reserved. He's almost it's almost very funny that he's almost kind of shy when he's talking to people, that he's not very familiar with, unless he has to turn on the charm. And then he's like, okay, yeah, that's Chris Hemsworth. But like when he's not doing a job, he's just darty. He just wants to like not be in that situation anymore, which I think it was a nice, change of pace, but I think also kind of weird for Chris Hemsworth to play. It's like, listen, like, yeah, like, dude, you're good looking, like, or whatever. Like, you don't have to, you don't have to not try to be, charming, good looking man. Like, you're Chris Hemsworth. Come on. But I did enjoy Crime 101. I thought it was great. I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I did, than I thought I would. But I can see the mistakes in there. I can see why people wouldn't like it. I think some characters, probably could have had more to do. Looking at Monica Barbro's character, she really just is there to kind of show the other side of Chris Hemsworth and maybe kind of, his way out of the life, but it's not really, they don't really showcase it that much. But it is, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. It's parts of movies you've seen before, done just slightly differently with different cast, a different cast. But again, still good. I still enjoyed it. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Let's move on to the next movie. The next movie is Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Gore Verbinski is back behind the camera after 8 years, which is hard for me to believe that he has not directed a movie in 8 years. His last movie was A Cure for Wellness, which was, that wasn't that great. But he gave us a bonkers sci-fi, time-traveling, action, dark comedy. And sometimes it's just a straightforward comedy. Because there's one point in this movie where it goes just so over the top. But at that point, you're already invested in what's going on. And you're kind of just like with the characters in that moment. You're like, yeah, sure, okay, that makes sense. Why not? Yeah, all right, whatever. So for those not in the know about this movie, because it didn't get a big release or not very much. I think I remember seeing a lot of advertisement for this, but it was a very good movie. If you have not watched it, I'd highly recommend it. But Sam Rockwell plays a character whose name is never revealed in the movie, which I didn't even notice when I was watching it. His name is never revealed in the movie, at least from now I can remember. But he arrives at a diner in LA and recruits some people to join him on a mission to save the future and the human race from a rogue AI that is about to take over. And the beginning of the movie is just Rockwell. He in a ridiculous outfit, spewing out this monologue that is great because it is so Sam Rockwell. Probably because it's Sam Rockwell. I mean, he's just great and everything. But it's also the kind of like the scathing and straight punch to the whole AI conversation and where it could be going, veiled behind someone who looks homeless. I think someone even mentions like, dude, you look homeless. You're just a homeless guy. But it's very good. Like, it's just him, like 5 straight minutes, just him monologuing to these people. And it's really great. And the rest of the cast is pretty good too. I mean, you got Michael Pena and Zazie Beetz. They play a couple kind of figuring it out, but they also are teachers that have a very close encounter with the AI at the school they work at. You got Juno Tempo, who plays Susan, who is a mother whose story is not what I expected from the movie like this. And maybe my only tick off of the movie is because her story, because because the movie is told in chapters. So you get Sam Rockwell's story, and then it kind of bounces around to the other characters, the other important characters, obviously. And hers is a more serious one, and I won't, mention what it is, but it is a more serious one. It does slow the movie down just a bit, but it allows Temple to show off what she can do as an actress, and Temple is a great actress as well, and getting to see her do her thing and talk and do this is pretty great. So I can't complain about that, but it does kind of slow the movie down just a bit. And it also doesn't, I mean, it does connect a little bit to the overall movie, but it also, and the kind of the wackiness of, and the black comedy aspect of the movie. But I think if you can remove her story from it, which will be a little hard, but at the end result of everything, but just like removing some of her scenes from that would be a little hard. You could do that because it's so different from the rest of the movie, but it does pay off in some way in the end. And then you finally have Haley Lou Richardson as Ingrid, who has a very pivotal role in the movie, and an interesting one but it works for the movie. It does. It sounds so ridiculous, but again, this is just the wonkiness of what Gore Verbinski is all about, and the wonkiness of the movie. And again, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sure, why not? And Richardson, very underrated. She's great. I think she's getting a little bit of a blow up. She has that show on Peacock called Ponies, which is very good and the show itself is also very good. And she shows a little bit more off here as well. Again, the movie overall, bonkers. That is the best way to describe this movie. It is absolutely bonkers, especially towards the end. But I really enjoyed it, and I recommend it. It is one of those movies where I think it will be like, you either really like this movie or you it's just so bonkers for you, you're not gonna like it, which I would understand. Okay, moving on. How to Make a Killing. Glenn Powell is back. I know, it's surprising. Glenn Powell had a new movie for A24, and I think barely anybody knew about it. But Glenn Powell is back on the big screen, being his usual charming self, as always. This time he's playing a character named Beckett Redfellow, a man from birth. From the very minute he was born, he was disowned. Well, not from the very minute, but his mother was disowned by this very wealthy family, and is still in line, however, to inherit all of the money if every other surviving member of the family were to die. And that is enough for Beckett to see how far he's willing to go. Believe this is based off a book or a play. I think they have done a version of this already. I can't remember if it was a book or a play. I think it was both, maybe. But there is a version of this out there somewhere else that's, told differently from here. But Powell is not on his own, because this movie has a pretty decent cast as well. You got Margot Qualley in here playing an old flame that returns to his life, and it's somewhat of a femme fatale. I think you can probably put that label on her. I think that would be appropriate. This is also a dark comedy, by the way. Jessica Henwick's in here as well as someone that Beckett falls for. Topher Grace has a very small role in here. So does Zach Woods. They play two members of the family. Bill Camp is here as well. Bill Camp, always reliable. He plays a more sympathetic character to Beckett as opposed to the other members of the family. And then you have Ed Harris in here as well. Very small role as the patriarch. He's the man in charge of the Bedfellow family as well. I honestly didn't know what to expect from How to Make a Killing. When I watched the trailer, I got a vibe that it was going to be probably a dark comedy, or sort of like this, light thriller, since the trailer does its best to hide most of everything. It does tell you that Beckett is trying to kill, his members, his distant family for the money. So besides it, falling on the shoulders of the cast, the movie also falls on the execution of the tone, and I think it did a pretty good job of nailing the tone of the movie. I did feel that the ending gets a little away from itself a little bit for me, but I think I would probably, I don't know, I'll say I would like the ending. I think I would understand the ending more if I came around to it, or I would understand it if I came more around to it upon a rewatch. I think that is definitely an ending where it's like, I gotta watch that again, watch the whole movie to see, if that ending is really kind of worth it. I mean, it is, in its own way, but I did enjoy the movie. Everyone in the cast is firing on all cylinders. It's engaging enough on all fronts. You wonder how everything will work out, and the end result, again, will depend on how you feel about that ending and if they were able to pull it off or not. But I think it's a solid movie nonetheless. I think the fact that not a lot of people are watching it or know about it, I think it does kind of suck, but it's a great cast. It's a great dark comedy in itself as well. So I would recommend How to Make a Killing if you wanted to watch that. And then you get to look at Glenn Powell, I guess, if that's your thing. I get to look at Jessica Henwick. Yeah, so anyway, moving on. Psycho Killer. This movie, you can already tell what I think about this movie. But no, I don't hate this movie. I don't hate this movie as much as I hate Strangers Chapter 3. I'm going to be honest with you. I forgot I watched Strangers Chapter 3 this month because it came out so early in the month. I forgot I watched it. That's how bad the movie is. Anyway, Psycho Killer. This one, though, is frustratingly disappointing. And I've never used that term before. It is frustratingly disappointing. It is written by Andrew Kevin Walker, which for those who need some sort of, movie, he is the man that gave us probably one of the greatest crime suspense thrillers that we've watched in 7. And Psycho Killer tries to be that. And it is not 7. It is totally not 7 whatsoever. The trailer is pretty great. And I got really hyped for this movie when I saw the trailer, because the trailer was, I really liked the trailer. The movie, though, it's bad. It is. It's bad. I was trying, to convince myself that maybe it's not that bad, but no. Now, I want to believe And I think I share this sentiment with someone else on somewhere online, because I think I saw it somewhere else too. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, and then I saw it on my timeline. I was like, oh, great, someone else thought this too. I think there's a longer movie in here somewhere. I think there is a longer movie. I think maybe the budget got cut, so they had to go to the script and just rip out pages and pages. And unfortunately, in those pages was the better movie. This script is stupidly messy, which makes the movie very messy because the end result of everything is confusing as hell. If you have to overthink about a movie's ending, and not in the good way, not in the, oh, it's because of this and it's because of this, so it's connected, and you know, oh, that they did a very clever way of doing it. No, that's not what this movie is. It just leaves you feeling dumb and shaking your head and gives you a headache because it feels like it's trying to give you the answers, but it's so just terribly edited, and the ending is just plain dumb. Like, this is definitely one of my biggest disappointments of the year so far. You know, it's not a movie that I would call the worst. It is definitely a disappointment. Like, imagine. I'm going to give you, again, a little slice. I wasn't planning on kind of doing a spoiler for this, but I'm going to do a spoiler for this. Imagine you find your killer, right? You find the killer at the end, and this is a cop, drama. It's not, like a Scream or, which we'll get to, which, believe me, we'll get to, or like, Halloween or, Friday the 13th, where it's like, oh, you find the killer, great. You just leave him there in the middle of nowhere, whatever, for the camera to, pan over to him, and, he gives a little, flick of the wrist. And, you just happen to leave the mask on him. Sure, that's great. You don't leave the killer, the guy you've been chasing this whole movie, who is just brutally killing these people left and right. You don't leave him in the back of a police van with his killer mask on. You don't do that. And then there's so much in this movie. I want to recommend it to people. Be like, this is not how you do this. This is not how you do a movie. But it's so bad. It's so frustratingly bad. Like, it's not frustrating bad like Strangers Chapter 3 is. It's frustrating bad because, like, I feel like there was a better movie in here somewhere along the line where things were more clear, and they try to like they try to do like a exposition dump at one point, but then they try to do like a exposition dump with like news people, like a news anchor telling you like everything that's going on, but it's like it just doesn't work because it's like you don't care at that point anymore. Like, it's just, yeah, it's frustrating bad. Okay. Don't watch it. You know what? At the end, don't watch it. Don't do it to yourself. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Scream 7. I'm only gonna talk about the movie. I'm not gonna talk about everything else because I'll be here talking forever about that stuff, like the firings and everything. Like, I'm not gonna talk about that. Plenty of people have talked about that, and I'm not gonna talk about that. I think I even talked about it. The one thing I will mention is that I was one of those people who thought that Sydney's story was pretty much done. Other than the nostalgia and a cameo for cameo's sake, and make it kind of, and to make it make sense to bring Sydney back in Scream 6 and maybe in the future, yeah, you can do that. That's fine. But as to make her like a main character again, like, no, I think her story is done. Like, let the woman rest. Like, she has gone through it. Give the trauma to someone else. So let's just move past that. Now, I was one of those people who was like, you don't need to bring her back. Like, just for a cameo or, nostalgia sake, fine, bring her back. But don't make her a main character. Like, her story is done. And they didn't do that. So, let's just move past that. And I'm just going to say that I was not a fan. I was not a fan of Scream 7. I wasn't. I tried to be. I really tried to be. And I had the pleasure of watching this. If you follow me on social media, I mentioned I was in LA. And I got to go watch it at the Chinese Theater in LA in IMAX at a fan event screening. I got free posters, which were great. Everyone there at the screening was already like a mega fan or a super fan of the franchise. They were cheering, they were hollering, all around reacting to everything they were watching, which admittedly is very hard, even if you're not fully engrossed in what's going on screen or in the movie. Like, it's hard not to be like, get into it with everybody else when they're cheering and hollering. Like, it's hard not to like, yeah, this is cool. But then I'm watching the movie. It's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I did like that we got to see Sydney. She's a mother now. We do get to see her happy a little bit. Her daughter in the movie is named Tatum, of course, after Rose McGowan's character from the first movie. And, she's the same age as Sydney was when everything started happening to her. and I do wish we kind of see a little bit, there's this sort of growing relationship between her and Sydney and Tatum throughout the movie. And I kind of wish we kind of saw a little bit of what we saw near the ending, kind of near the middle as well. More at the beginning. Like, I kind of wanted that more a little bit, because Sydney wants Tatum to grow up and have a regular life. Even though she is Sydney Prescott, like everybody knows who Sydney Prescott is. Like, but she wants Tatum to have a normal life. She doesn't want Tatum to be the daughter of Sydney Prescott. Like, she just wants her to be, Tatum. So it's, so kind of seeing that was kind of cool, but also like kind of wanted, there's a lot of push and pull in that relationship, but I don't know. I just kind of I guess I wanted a little bit more from that bit. The movie does up its gore level, which I guess maybe I'll give it credit for, but there's a very like Jason Voorhees level style kills here, which I don't think I really associate with Scream. Like, I don't associate the Scream franchise with like heavy, articulated, stylized kills like the ones we get here. Maybe I'm just not, a big enough fan of the Scream franchise that I can remember every kill in the movie. But I don't envision, I never envisioned it like that. And we get a few of those in this movie, which everyone in the theater seemed to like. And there was one that was like, oh, that's okay. Like, you're pushing it a little bit. Okay, you've gone too far. You've gone to parody now. You haven't gone into like seriousness kind of now. But yeah, I don't know. I just wish the characters were better too. And a lot of them are just kind of one note, or they're just there to be cannon fodder. They're just there to be on the kill count. Really, there's not a lot of meat to them. I think the biggest thing, and the thing that I've seen even the hardcores agree on as well, is the reveal of the killers and their motivations and how weak it is. I think you can say and this is the thing that kind of irritates me. It's like, people are gonna love this movie no matter what. I think people are gonna love this movie no matter what because Neve Campbell's back. That's great. You want to like the movie because of that. That's fine. But everything I've seen, I was like, people are like, yeah, man, the motivation and the killers, it's so dumb. But like, oh man, this movie's so good. It's like, no, it's not. Like the whole, like some of the stuff that, it's one of the things about Scream is like one of the reasons why people love the Scream movie. I don't know where I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. But one of the reasons why, Scream works so well is a lot of time it's because of the reveal. It's like, oh, you want to know who the killer is and you want to know why they're doing this. And this movie just falls so flat in the face of the reveal and the killer of who they are. Like, there was zero reaction in that theater when they revealed who the killers were. And again, I don't want to get too spoilery into this, but this is one of the moments where I was like, I need to get into it just a little bit. So if you haven't seen Scream 7 yet, and you want to keep yourself, and you haven't, been spoiled on it online or anything, timestamps are going to be down below, because I do still have one more movie I want to talk about. So, timestamps down below. Overall, before we get to that, I just wasn't a fan of Scream 7. I really wasn't. I wanted it to like it a little bit more than I did, and I didn't. I really didn't. So, all right, let's get into spoilers. So, from what I understood, and I haven't really, read it up on a lot of stuff from the ending, because I don't want to talk. I don't want to think about this movie anymore. It kind of feels like, first of all, the fact that it's the neighbor, Anna Camp, who disappears for the whole movie. Like, she shows up at one point, and there's a certain point where she's there, and when Gail comes in, and once Gail shows up, she's gone. And Anna Camp was just gone. Her character doesn't exist anymore. Like, you don't know where she is. Like, I thought maybe we'd see her Sydney or Tatum doing the final girl run, and we'll see her on the floor somewhere. Nope, she's just straight up one of the killers, because she's a neighbor that is obsessed with Sydney. Like, she had an abusive husband, and she killed him, and she went into the mental institution, and that's where the other guy, I forgot his name already, Ethan Embry, that's the actor, but he encountered her, and he was also obsessed with Sydney and everything, and they created a story of what was going on. And basically what she wants Tatum to be the new Sydney. And they even mentioned oh, you sat out of New York. Like, how could you? How selfish could you be that you sat out of New York when all this stuff was happening? Like, why would you do that? Why would you leave us? So I don't know if it was they were just talking about us, like the fan, like not me, but like the fans who wanted, who were, upset that Nev Campbell wasn't in the last movie. That's how kind of I'm reading it. I don't know if that's how, if that's really what they want. Obviously, someone more articulate can say it than I could, but like they were just attacking their own fans, and I mean that's not something that is totally not new to what is going on. Obviously, they talked about remakes and reboots and everything with the other two movies, but yeah, I don't know. The reveal of it is just, it's so weak. Like if we need to like really like sit down and dissect it and like really talk about it, it's like no. Like most of the time it's like, no, we just did it for revenge. Like, okay, that makes sense. Oh, we want to do it because we want to be famous. We want to be in the limelight now, and we think this is we think this is the better story if it happens again. Like, okay, that makes sense. So you killed my son. I wanted to get revenge on you. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, it just fell so flat on its face when it's revealed. It's like it's one of the weakest reveals, and that's saying something compared to some of the other movies, which are, again, I'm not a big fan of. But I want to talk about Stu, because the way they brought Stu back, they brought him back with AI, which is dumb, just plain old dumb. And if you someone pointed this out to me, and it kind of hit me, which makes that whole concept even more dumber when I thought about it, is how would they know how Stu acted? Because yes, Sydney has written the book, and people have probably done like, stuff about, Stu and, how he was, and, talking to other people, other people, Stu, of their classmates, being like, oh, how does Stu Macher, how was he as a person? Maybe that's where they got it from. But how would they know how he would react? How do they know how he would talk, and, react with Sydney and everything like that? Like, how would he know that? Like, how would they know? Because Ethan Embry just happens to, his character just happens to be, a guy that works at a psych ward. Oh no, he also happens to be really good with computers, because he was like, like an intern or something at, Microsoft or whatever company he said, or Google. I think it was Google. Like, it's so lazy. Like, even the movie was like, maybe it is Stu Macher, but like, I think Sydney at one point when she's talking to Gail about like, is it really Stu? Like, Stu's dead, right? And like, no, but what if he isn't? And I will credit the movie for trying to be like, maybe it is him. Maybe it is Stu. Maybe he did survive. Maybe he is still alive. And then, they're sitting down at the table at one point and they're like, well, if it is Stu, maybe that's just easier to accept, other than, some other random lazy excuse of it not being Stu. And I think, I credit the movie for that, for at least even acknowledging how crazy the idea is. That Stu got stabbed in the chest. And he had a TV fall on him. No one is surviving that, and again, and to say that, knowing that the Minx twins are back in this movie, and Chad got stabbed like 1,500 times in the last movie and somehow still survived, and he's still kicking, and like, he has no PTSD. Like, oh, I'm sure he has PTSD, but he has like no, like, he's moving, he's running, he's, doing everything. Like, there's nothing about him that's like, yeah, I got stabbed a bunch of times. And the Minx twins, by the way, they're brought back. They survive again, and they're like interns for Gail. Now they work for Gail, which, okay, that's fine, but like, there's nothing else to their characters anymore. Like, there's nothing interesting about their character. They're just interns. They're just back in the background. They just happen to be, Minx. They just happen to be Minxes. That's all they have to be. So I didn't like that. And the whole AI concept later in the house, where we get the kind of just the nostalgia cameos back. You have David Arquette back as Dewey. You have Scott Foley coming back as Roman, and you have Laurie Metcalf back as Billy's mom. Which, again, how will they know how to react? How do they know how those people reacted? Like, it's just it makes, when you sit down and you start, thinking about it and thinking about everything else, it just becomes dumb. Like, there's no real reason that Sydney would fall for this, because why? Like, how? I don't know. I'm hurting myself thinking about it. And I think I agree with a lot of people where do you go from here? Like, do you keep following Sydney and Tatum now that they're a mother-daughter duo? But like, where do you go from here? Like, there's no reason to continue this franchise other than, backing up every Brinks trunk you can think of into Nev Campbell's, yard. There's no reason to continue this franchise now, because we can't keep falling for the same, like, it becomes so, like, you can only take this idea so far. You can only take the fact that, like, oh, like, we want to, latch onto the fame of Sidney Prescott and now her daughter, Tatum Prescott, because she survived this. Like, there's only so much you can do with that. Like, it becomes a parody at a certain point. And I think that's what it's becoming. I think that's what the Scream franchise is becoming, especially if you keep going. This is 7 Scream movies. And I get it. People love these movies. And, you have every right to love these movies. There are some of them that I really do enjoy. I really like that first one. I do enjoy that first one. A lot of it, I think some of it comes from nostalgia, but I think a lot of it is like, you know what? It is a smart take on the horror franchise, which I really love. Part 2, not that great. I'm just gonna be honest. Part 2, not that great. 3, also not that great. There's parts of these movies that I really do enjoy and like, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that the Scream franchise is one of my favorite franchises. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna lie to you. And just to see where it's going, like, it's gonna become a parody of itself if it just keeps going, because it can't keep happening to the same person over and over and over and over and over again. Like, at a certain point, you just have to let her have a happy life. You have to have it. Like, you just can't do it. Like, you can keep bringing back the killer with new people. That's great. That's what they tried to do with 5 and 6, and a lot of people, and I think 6 was a good ending. When you look back at that ending in Scream 6, like, that's a pretty solid ending for this franchise. It really is. And people weren't happy with it because Sidney wasn't there, which, again, I get. I do. I get. But at the same time, it's like, you gotta let it go, man. You do. You gotta let her go, because she's gotta have a happy life. Like, you can't just keep bringing her back. All right. There you go. I'm gonna stop talking about it because I feel like I'm just rambling at this point. I'm gonna talk about one more movie. I'm gonna keep it very quick. Blades of the Guardians. I have been looking forward to this movie since I found out about it. And I was scared that I wouldn't get a chance to watch it in theaters because it was kind of only playing at one theater here. It was playing at a very inconvenient showtime for me. But I got to watch it in LA. And I'm so glad I got to watch this on the big screen. I think as it needs to be, because this movie is fantastic. It's directed by Yuan Ping. He still has it. He's never lost it. He has it. He's always had it, and he will continue to have it. I just need to say it out loud. Blades of the Guardians is so good. It is a bombastic wuxia martial arts action movie with a great cast, awesome action sequences, and an amazing set piece that is set in a sandstorm. Yes, and I mean it. And I read this when the movie was coming out, and I was like, that sounds ridiculous, but that also sounds freaking awesome. And there's an action set piece set in a sandstorm, so it's basically, at a certain point, a wuxia Mad Max Fury Road movie. And if that doesn't interest you, if you can't get into that, then I'm sorry, we can't be friends. Because that's everything. Really, come on. If anything, if you're still on the fence, you can see Jet Li back on the screen. Jet Li coming back, especially in a wuxia movie, that's amazing. And he doesn't have a big part. You see him at the beginning of the movie. He's like in the first quarter of the movie, and you get to see him face off against Wu Jin, who was our lead. Wu Jin, I guess the only thing that people here in America would know him for would be the Meg 2. He's one of the supporting characters in Meg 2. But for me, Wu Jin is amazing. You get to see him a bunch of other stuff. I've seen him and all his other stuff, and all stuff obviously he does in his native country. And he's an amazing actor, and it's amazing seeing him with Jet Li, because he was he kind of following in the footsteps of Jet Li as well with wuxia and the martial arts. I forgot what was this? There's specific martial arts that he knows that Jet Li knew, and then they kept continuing, and I just can't remember what it was. Anyway, it's a great movie. It warmed my martial arts loving movie heart. I was grinning from ear to ear. And this movie's 2 hours long. And every now and then I'll mention, like, movies are too long. Like, you gotta trim them down. Like, can we stop having movies that are 2 hours long, 2.5 hours long, 2 hours and 45 minutes long? I could have sat down for another hour. This movie moves. There's probably like a couple slow moments in the movie, but they were necessary slow moments. Like, you can have necessary slow moments in a long movie because, it slows everything down. You get to know more of the characters. It kind of, just gives you, a little break of everything that's been going, especially in, an action movie like this. But if you just, if you're just having, these slow moments in a long movie for no reason, that's a different story. But this movie, has its slow moments, but it makes sense as to why these moments are there and why, they're slowing down the pace and the action of it all. I could have sat there for another hour. I really could have. Like, this movie just zooms by, and I could have sat there for another hour watching this movie. This movie's really good. I dare say, out of, I know we're just I know it's technically March, but I know we've only had movies out in February so far. This movie is one of my favorite movies of the year. It is already one of my favorite movies of the year. It really is. It's probably Bone Temple on there. I think there's another one that I can't remember what it is, but this is definitely solidly, and it's gonna take a lot for other movies to come out this year. And I know it's only March, but this is one of my favorite movies of the year, and I think it's gonna stay one of my favorite movies of the year. I cannot wait for this thing to come out on digital, so I'm gonna watch it again. This is one of my favorites. Okay, that's it, everybody. That's it for February that I have for you guys. Those are all the new movies that came out. I will come back, obviously, in March. This is going to be probably how it's going to go. I'm going to release these recaps the first week of the new month. Hopefully, if I can, get them out in time. And, I'm looking forward to March. I wanted to do a new feature. I think I'll save it for March. I want to do a new feature with these monthly recaps, but I didn't get a chance to really do it for this one. So I will try to do it with March. And I'll obviously let you guys know what that is next month. But here in March, we'll I'll be looking at that. Hopefully we'll do a solo new movie review in March. I'm planning on it. I don't know which movie I'm going to do yet, but I do plan on doing something like that. I don't know if it will be a movie coming out in theaters or it will be one of the streaming movies, but I do want to do a solo movie review again. I haven't done one of those in a while. I definitely want to do another retro rewatch. I got a few movies lined up that I could probably do. I just need to obviously find the time to do those. But this month, there will be another new episode guaranteed. I just don't know what it is yet. So, So thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know what your favorite movie in February was. Because like I said, there was a lot of movies that came out in February. I feel like, now we're moving past January. We're in February. A lot of movies came out. March is going to be the same thing. There's a lot of big heavy hitters in March. You got Ready or Not 2 coming out. You got a great looking action movie coming out. They Will Kill You with Zazie Beetz in the lead. You got just a bunch of other stuff coming out as well. I don't have the list in front of me, but those are the two movies that I know are coming out and that I'm looking forward towards. So, that's it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, let me know what your favorite movie was in February on the socials, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, right there in the comments. I appreciate you guys for listening. As always, be good people. Stay safe out there. The world is a crazy, crazy, crazy world right now, and we just need to stay strong and be together and just be as safe as possible. Just please be as safe as possible out there. In the meantime, as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!